You think you know someone, and then one day you overhear a truth so sharp, it cuts the foundation of what you thought was real. That's what happened to me on a sunny Saturday afternoon in June, at what should have been a joyful family gathering to celebrate my brother Derek's engagement to his girlfriend Elise. I arrived at my parents' house around noon, a bottle of champagne in hand. Derek greeted me at the door with a huge smile. "Marla, you made it." We hugged, and I followed him inside, where a few relatives were already mingling in the living room. I scanned the room for Elise and spotted her in the kitchen with my mom. "I'll be right back. Just going to put this in the fridge," I told Derek, heading to the kitchen. As I approached, I overheard Elise's voice, low and mocking. "And did you see that tacky ring he got me? I mean, you'd think with all his supposed success he could afford something halfway decent. But hey, once we're married, it's just a matter of time before I have access to the real money." I froze in the doorway, my stomach dropping. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Elise, the woman my brother was about to marry, was only after his money? I ducked back out of view before they noticed me, my mind reeling. "Marla, there you are." Derek appeared beside me, startling me. "Ready to get this party started?" I forced a smile onto my face. "You bet. Let's celebrate." The next few hours crawled by in a haze. I watched Elise mingle and laugh, playing the part of the blushing bride-to-be, while an icy fist clenched tighter and tighter in my gut. I couldn't stand seeing her with her arm looped through Derek's, flashing her ring and gushing about wedding plans, knowing it was all fake. As the party wound down and guests started to leave, I pulled Derek aside. "Hey, can we talk for a sec, privately?" "Sure, what's up?" He followed me out to the back patio. I took a deep breath. "Derek, I overheard something today. Something Elise said. I think she might be using you for your money." Derek's brow furrowed. "What? That's ridiculous. Elise loves me. She would never do that." "I know it sounds crazy, but I heard her myself. She was making fun of your engagement ring and talking about getting access to your money once you're married." No way. You must have misunderstood." Derek shook his head, looking at me like I'd lost my mind. "Elise is the most genuine, caring person I know. I can't believe you'd even suggest that." "I'm just trying to look out for you," I pleaded. "I know what I heard." "I think you're just jealous," he snapped. "You've always had to be the center of attention, and now that I'm happy, you can't stand it. I'm not going to let you ruin this for me." With that, he turned and stormed back inside, leaving me alone on the patio, stunned and hurt. I couldn't believe he didn't trust me. But I knew deep in my bones that I was right about Elise, and I wasn't going to rest until I could prove it, no matter what it took. I had to save my brother from that gold-digging viper masquerading as the perfect fiancé. This was only the beginning. I steeled myself for the battle ahead as I headed back inside to say my goodbyes, already forming a plan. After the disastrous confrontation with Derek at the engagement party, I spent a sleepless night tossing and turning, Elise's mocking words echoing in my head. I couldn't shake the feeling that my brother was walking blindly into a trap, and it was up to me to save him. The next morning, I called up my old friend Jenna, who worked as a private investigator. "Jenna, I need your help. It's about Derek's fiancée, Elise. I think she's bad news." "Okay, slow down," Jenna said. "What makes you think that?" I recounted what I'd overheard at the party. "I tried to warn Derek, but he wouldn't listen. He thinks I'm just jealous. But I know what I heard, Jenna. She's using him." "All right, I'll see what I can dig up. Give me a few days." True to her word, Jenna called me back 3 days later. "Marla, I think you're onto something. I did some digging into Elise's background, and let's just say her past is shadier than a palm tree in July." "What did you find?" I asked, my heart pounding. "Seems like our girl Elise has a history of latching on to wealthy men, bleeding them dry, then moving on to the next target. She's got a trail of broken hearts and empty bank accounts in her wake." "I knew it." I felt a surge of vindication, quickly followed by a chill of fear for my brother. "Jenna, I need hard evidence to convince Derek. Can you put together a report?" "Already on it. I'll email it to you by tonight." Armed with Jenna's dossier, I called Derek and asked to meet for coffee the next day. He agreed, albeit reluctantly. We met at a quiet cafe near his office. I slid the folder across the table to him. Derek, I know you think I'm just being a jealous sister, but please, hear me out. Jenna did some digging on Elise, and it's not good. Derek's jaw clenched as he flipped through the pages, his eyes scanning the damning evidence. Bank statements, court records, testimonials from jilted exes. It painted a clear picture of Elise as a manipulative, gold-digging con artist. This can't be real, Derek muttered, but I could see the doubt creeping into his eyes. I'm so sorry, Derek. I know this must be hard to see, but you had to know the truth about her. He slammed the folder shut. I need to think, he said abruptly, standing up. Don't tell anyone about this, okay? I need to figure out what to do. I watched him go, feeling a mix of relief and apprehension. I knew I'd done the right thing, but I also knew this was far from over. 2 days later, I got a text from Derek. You were right. Confronted Elise. Wedding's off. I owe you an apology. I breathed a sigh of relief, but it was short-lived. That evening, I got a call from an unknown number. You think you're so clever, don't you? Elise's voice was cold with fury. You just couldn't keep your nose out of it. Derek deserved to know the truth about you, I shot back. You're nothing but a lying, manipulative... Shut up, she hissed. You have no idea who you're messing with, you pathetic busybody. I have powerful friends, and I'll make you regret the day you crossed me. This isn't over. The line went dead, and I sat frozen, my heart racing. What had I gotten myself into? But I couldn't back down now. I had to see this through, for Derek's sake. Elise wanted a fight? Bring it on. Elise's threat hung over me like a dark cloud in the days that followed. I jumped at every unfamiliar noise, checked over my shoulder constantly, and had trouble sleeping. But I tried to push through the fear and focus on being there for Derek. He was devastated by Elise's betrayal, but he put on a brave face. I just can't believe I was so blind, he said as we shared a somber drink at his place. Looking back, there were so many red flags. I feel like such a fool. She had us all fooled, I reassured him. The important thing is you found out the truth before it was too late. Derek managed a weak smile. Thanks to you. I'm sorry I didn't believe you at first. I should have known you'd always have my back. That's what family's for, I said, squeezing his hand. But even as I comforted Derek, I couldn't shake the feeling that Elise was out there somewhere, plotting her revenge. My fears were confirmed a week later when I got a call from Jenna. Marla, you need to be careful, she said urgently. I've been hearing whispers that Elise is on the warpath. She's been reaching out to some seriously shady characters, calling in favors. I think she's coming for you. A chill ran down my spine. What do I do, Jenna? Watch your back, upgrade your security system, and maybe consider getting out of town for a while, just until things blow over. But I couldn't just run and hide, not when Derek was still picking up the pieces of his shattered life. He had thrown himself into planning an extravagant charity gala, saying he needed something to keep him busy and take his mind off Elise. I don't know, Derek, I said when he told me about it. Do you really think a big flashy event is a good idea right now? Maybe we should keep a low profile. Nonsense, he said with forced cheer. The show must go on. Besides, it's for a good cause. I could really use your help pulling it all together. I hesitated, thinking of Jenna's warning, but the pleading look in Derek's eyes won me over. All right. I'm in. Let's make this an event to remember. We threw ourselves into the preparations, and for a while, I was able to push thoughts of Elise and her threats to the back of my mind, but they came rushing back with a vengeance 2 days before the gala. I was at Derek's place, going over the final guest list, when his phone buzzed with an incoming text. He glanced at it and went pale. It's from Elise. My blood ran cold. What does it say? With shaking hands, he showed me the screen. Looks like you're going to have a full house at your little party. Shame if something were to happen to all those nice rich people. But I'm sure you've got great security, right? Hate for there to be any accidents. I felt sick. Derek, you have to cancel the gala. This is serious. She's threatening people's lives. He sank into a chair, head in his hands. I can't. It's too late. Everything's already paid for. The invitations are out. I'll hire extra security. Take every precaution. I knelt in front of him, forcing him to meet my eyes. Derek, listen to me. No event is worth risking innocent lives. You have to shut it down. We'll find another way to support the charity, but this ends now. For a moment he hesitated, fear and indecision warring on his face. Then his expression hardened with resolve. "You're right. I'll make the calls. The gala's off." He stood and walked out of the room, phone already at his ear. I slumped back against the couch, letting out a shaky breath. We'd averted one disaster. But I knew, deep in my bones, that this was only the beginning of Elise's revenge, and I had no idea just how far she would go. The fallout from canceling the gala was immediate and intense. Derek was bombarded with angry calls and emails from guests demanding explanations, vendors demanding compensation, and the charity expressing disappointment at the lost funding. He handled it all with grim determination, apologizing profusely and absorbing the financial hits, but I could see the toll it was taking on him. "I'm sorry, Derek," I said for the 100th time as we sat in his living room, surrounded by the detritus of the canceled event. Unused invitations, seating charts, catering menus. "I know how much this meant to you." He shook his head warily. "It's not your fault, Marla. You were right to insist on canceling. I just wish—" He trailed off, his eyes distant. I understood. He wished he'd never met Elise, never fallen for her lies, wished he could go back to his life before she'd poisoned it. In the days that followed, I watched helplessly as my once vibrant, outgoing brother retreated into himself. He went through the motions at work, but the spark was gone from his eyes. He stopped returning friends' calls, stopped going out. It was like Elise had stolen a piece of his soul, and he didn't know how to get it back. I knew I had to do something, so I made a decision, one that I knew Derek wouldn't like. I was going to confront Elise directly. Using the information Jenna had gathered, I tracked Elise down to a high-end spa on the outskirts of town. I staked out the parking lot, and when I saw her emerging, I stepped out of my car and blocked her path. "We need to talk," I said, my voice hard. Elise looked me up and down with a sneer. Well, if it isn't the meddling sister, what do you want?" "I want you to leave my brother alone. Stop threatening him. Stop trying to ruin his life. Just walk away." She laughed, a cold, mirthless sound. "Oh, sweetie, you have no idea who you're dealing with, do you? You think you can just order me around like one of your little office lackeys?" She stepped closer, her eyes glinting with malice. "I will destroy you. I will take everything and everyone you love, starting with your precious brother, and I will burn it all to the ground, and there's not a damn thing you can do to stop me." My hands clenched into fists at my sides. "You're wrong. Derek knows what you are now. He's done with you." "Is that so? Then why has he been calling me, begging me to take him back?" My heart stopped. "You're lying." Elise held up her phone, showing me her call log. Derek's name, over and over. Poor thing is so broken up about losing me. It's only a matter of time before he comes crawling back. And when he does, I'll bleed him for every penny, and I'll make sure he knows it's all your fault. Red rage clouded my vision. Before I knew what I was doing, I lashed out, slapping the phone from her hand. It clattered to the pavement, the screen shattering. Elise's eyes burned with fury. "You'll pay for that, you bitch," she hissed, lunging for me. I braced myself, but before she could make contact, a voice rang out. "That's enough." We both turned to see Jenna striding toward us, a fierce expression on her face. "Elise Stanton, I'm placing you under citizen's arrest for extortion, threats, and multiple counts of fraud." Elise gaped at her. "You can't do that." "Oh, I can, and I am. I've got enough evidence to put you away for a long time. Boys?" She nodded to two burly men who had appeared behind her. "Cuff her." As they wrestled a screaming, cursing Elise into a waiting car, Jenna turned to me. "You okay?" I let out a shaky breath. "I will be. Thank you, Jenna, for everything." She hugged me. "That's what friends are for. It's over, Marla. She can't hurt you or Derek anymore." I wanted to believe her, but as I watched the car carry Elise away, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was far from the end. If anything, the real battle was just beginning. Elise's arrest should have been the end of it, but deep down I knew better. Someone as manipulative and well-connected as her wouldn't go down without a fight. And I was right. Less than 24 hours after Jenna had taken her into custody, I got a call. "She's out," Jenna said without preamble. Somehow made bail. My blood turned to ice in my veins. "How is that possible? I thought you said the evidence against her was airtight." "It is," Jenna said grimly. "But seems she's got friends in high places. Some hotshot lawyer swooped in, greased some palms. I'm sorry, Marla. I thought we had her." I took a deep, steadying breath. It's not your fault, Jenna. You did everything you could. This just means we have to be extra careful. She'll be coming for us now. For me. I hung up and immediately called Derek, warning him about Elise's release and pleading with him to be cautious and alert. He was shaken but resolute. We won't let her terrorize us anymore, he vowed. It's time we put an end to this, once and for all. Easier said than done. Over the next few days, Elise's campaign of harassment and intimidation kicked into high gear. I received threatening messages. My car was vandalized, and I could swear I was being followed everywhere I went. Derek experienced similar incidents. Slashed tires, ominous packages left on his doorstep. It was psychological warfare, designed to make us feel vulnerable and afraid in our own lives. But we weren't about to back down. With Jenna's help, we started gathering even more evidence against Elise. Records of her past cons, testimonies from her previous marks, anything that would help ensure a conviction and a long sentence. It was risky, poking the hornet's nest, but we were determined to build an unassailable case. All the while, I was looking over my shoulder, jumping at shadows. The worst part was not knowing when or how Elise would strike. The anticipation was its own kind of torture. It all came to a head a week later. Derek called me, his voice tight with barely controlled panic. Marla, she's here. Elise, she's in my apartment. My heart seized. What? How? Derek, get out of there now. I'm calling the police. No police. She says if we involve the authorities, she'll hurt Mom and Dad. Marla, I don't know what to do. Stay calm, I said, though I was anything but calm myself. I'm on my way. Just keep her talking, okay? Don't let her do anything rash. I broke every speed limit racing to Derek's place, all the while trying to come up with a plan. By the time I burst through his door, my heart was hammering out of my chest. I found them in the living room, Derek white-faced and shaking, Elise cool and composed with a smug smile playing about her lips. Ah, Marla, so good of you to join us, she purred. Elise, I said evenly, fighting to keep my voice steady. You need to leave, now. She laughed. Oh, I don't think so. You see, Derek and I were just coming to an understanding, weren't we, darling? Derek wouldn't meet my eyes, his head down. Elise continued. Here's how it's going to go. You two are going to drop this little crusade against me. All the evidence, all the witnesses. It all disappears. And in return, I'll let your family live in peace. Refuse. And, well, I can't be held responsible for what might happen to poor, sweet Mom and Dad. Rage and terror warred within me. This was the showdown I'd been dreading and anticipating. The moment of truth. I looked at Elise, at her cruel, triumphant face, and I knew I had a choice to make. Surrender to her threats and live under her thumb forever, or fight back with everything I had and risk it all. In that moment, staring into the face of evil, I made my decision. I squared my shoulders, looked her dead in the eye, and said the words that would change everything. Bring it on, bitch. Elise's eyes narrowed at my defiance. You're making a big mistake, Marla. You have no idea what I'm capable of. No, Elise, you're the one who's mistaken, I shot back, my voice steady, despite the fear churning in my gut. You've underestimated me, my brother, and the power of the truth, and that's going to be your downfall. I turned to Derek, who was watching our exchange with wide, anxious eyes. Derek, it's time. We're ending this now. With shaking hands, Derek pulled out his phone and sent a single text. Moments later, the apartment door burst open, and in poured Jenna and a team of police officers. Elise whirled around, her face contorting with rage. What is this? She snarled. Jenna stepped forward, a fierce smile on her face. This, Elise, is a sting operation. We've been recording everything. Every threat, every admission of guilt. It's all on tape. Realization dawned on Elise's face, quickly replaced by pure, unadulterated fury. She lunged at me, screaming incoherently, but the officers were too quick. They had her restrained and cuffed in seconds. As they led her away, Elise twisted in their grip to face me, her eyes burning with hatred. This isn't over, Marla, she shrieked. I'll destroy you for this. I'll destroy all of you. Then she was gone, her manic threats echoing in the sudden stillness of the apartment. I turned to Derek, my knees weak with relief. We did it, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. We got her. He pulled me into a fierce hug, his whole body trembling. I'm so sorry, Marla, for everything. I should have listened to you from the start. It's okay, I murmured, holding him tight. It's over now. We're safe. But even as I said the words, I knew they weren't entirely true. Elise might be in custody, but her venom ran deep. This wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of a whole new battle. That battle began in earnest at Elise's trial. Despite the mountain of evidence against her, she fought tooth and nail, her high-priced lawyers using every dirty trick in the book to try and discredit our testimony. On the stand, under the heat of the defense's cross-examination, I felt like I was the one on trial. They painted me as a jealous, manipulative sister, twisting my every word against me. But I held firm, clinging to the truth like a lifeline. Derek faced even worse in his testimony, forced to relive the pain and humiliation of Elise's betrayal. But he too stood strong, his voice never wavering as he laid bare the depths of her deceit. And then, the moment we'd been waiting for. Jenna took the stand, and one by one, she presented the recordings, the documents, the irrefutable proof of Elise's crimes. With each piece of evidence, I watched Elise's composure crack, her icy facade melting under the heat of her own incriminating words. In the end, the jury deliberated for less than an hour. When the verdict came back, the courtroom erupted, guilty on all counts. Elise was sentenced to 15 years in prison, with the possibility of more time pending further investigation into her past crimes. As they led her away in cuffs, Elise shot me one last venomous glare. "Rot in hell," she hissed. "Both of you." I just smiled, feeling the weight of months of fear and stress lift from my shoulders. "Enjoy prison, Elise. I hear orange is the new black." Derek and I walked out of the courthouse into the blinding sunlight, hand in hand. It was over. We were free. But as we stepped into the world ready to rebuild our lives, I couldn't shake one nagging thought. Elise still had powerful allies, a network of corruption and deceit. Was this truly the end? Or was it just a temporary reprieve in a war that was far from over? Only time would tell. But one thing I knew for certain, whatever battles lay ahead, Derek and I would face them together. And together, we were unbreakable. The morning after Elise's conviction, I woke to the shrill ring of my phone. Bleary-eyed, I glanced at the caller ID. Derek. A cold knot formed in my stomach as I answered. "Derek, what's wrong?" "Turn on the news," he said, his voice strained. "Now." I fumbled for the remote, my heart pounding. The TV flickered to life, and there she was. Elise, being led out of the courthouse in cuffs, a reporter shoving a microphone in her face. "Miss Stanton, do you have any comment on the allegations that you bribed a juror in your trial?" My blood turned to ice. Bribery? But before I could even process the implications, Elise spoke. "I have been wrongfully convicted," she declared, her voice ringing with righteous indignation. "And I know exactly who's behind this travesty of justice, Marla Newman." The camera cut to a picture of me, and I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. What was she doing? "Marla was obsessed with me, jealous of my relationship with her brother," Elise continued, her eyes wild. "She orchestrated this entire thing to destroy me. She threatened me, blackmailed me, and now she's tampering with the jury to make sure I go down." "That's insane," I shouted at the screen. "She's lying." But the reporter was already running with it. Shocking allegations from the convicted con artist Elise Stanton. Could this be a case of a vengeful sister going too far? Stay tuned as we investigate these explosive claims. I clicked off the TV, numb with shock and fury. She was doing it again, twisting the truth to paint herself as the victim. And now she was dragging me down with her. My phone exploded with notifications, texts, emails, social media tags, everyone wanting to know if it was true, if I really was the psycho-obsessed sister Elise made me out to be. I called Jenna in a panic. "You have to do something," I pleaded. "She's destroying me." Jenna was already on it. "We'll counter her lies with the truth," she assured me. "I've got your back, Marla. We all do." But the damage was done. Over the next few days, despite Jenna's efforts, the media latched onto Elise's narrative. Every mistake I'd ever made, every flaw and imperfection was dredged up and put on display. My life became a waking nightmare of harassment and accusations. Even Derek began to doubt. "Are you sure you didn't, I don't know, maybe go a little too far?" he asked hesitantly one night. I stared at him, hurt and disbelief rendering me speechless. After everything, how could he even question me? Seeing my face, he backpedaled. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean, I know you'd never do what she's accusing you of. I'm scared, Marla." I softened, pulling him into a hug. "I know. I am too. But we can't let her win. We have to fight. And fight we did. Jenna worked tirelessly to discredit Elise's claims, to prove that the bribery allegations were just another desperate ploy from a cornered liar. Slowly, painfully, the tide began to turn. Then, a bombshell. One of Elise's old associates came forward, offering proof that Elise herself had orchestrated the bribery scandal in a last-ditch effort to force a mistrial and escape justice. It was the final nail in her coffin. The story exploded, and suddenly everyone who had doubted me was falling over themselves to apologize, to distance themselves from the disgraced con artist. I watched it all unfold with a grim satisfaction, but no real joy. Because even though Elise was finally truly defeated, the scars she left remained. The doubt, the mistrust, the knowledge that someone I had once welcomed into my life could be so manipulative, so cruel. It would take time to heal, to rebuild what she had tried to destroy. But as I sat with Derek, watching as Elise was led away in cuffs once more, I knew one thing for certain. We had won. And no matter what lies Elise tried to spin, no matter what darkness she tried to spread, the truth would always prevail. Derek and I, our bond, was stronger than her hate, and that was a victory she could never take away. In the weeks following Elise's final downfall, life slowly began to return to normal, or as normal as it could be, after everything we'd been through. Derek threw himself into his work, determined to rebuild his reputation and his life. I stood by his side, supporting him every step of the way. But Elise's shadow still lingered. Despite being behind bars, her venom continued to spread. Nasty rumors circulated online. Old associates of hers came out of the woodwork with sordid tales of her past. It seemed her network of deceit ran even deeper than we'd imagined. One day, I received a chilling email from an anonymous sender. "You think you've won, but you have no idea what's coming," it read. "Elise has friends in high places. Watch your back." I showed the message to Jenna, my hands shaking. "It never ends," I said, my voice breaking. "She's still tormenting us, even from prison." Jenna's face hardened with resolve. "We'll find out who sent this," she vowed, "and we'll make sure they face consequences, just like Elise." True to her word, Jenna launched an investigation, and what she uncovered was staggering. Elise's web of corruption extended far beyond what we'd ever imagined. Crooked lawyers, dirty cops, even a judge or two in her pocket. It was a hydra of deceit, and every time we cut off one head, two more seemed to sprout in its place. But we kept fighting. Derek and I gave interviews, telling our story, exposing Elise's lies. Slowly, the tide of public opinion began to turn. Elise's empire crumbled, her allies scattering like rats from a sinking ship. Finally, the day of reckoning came. Elise and her co-conspirators were brought up on a slew of new charges: racketeering, obstruction of justice, witness tampering. It was the trial of the century, and Derek and I were the star witnesses. On the stand, facing Elise once more, I felt a strange calm settle over me. She glared at me, her eyes full of impotent rage, but I stared back unflinching. She had no power over me anymore. "Tell the court what happened, Marla," the prosecutor prompted. And I did. I told my story, our story, holding nothing back. I laid bare every manipulation, every cruel machination, and as I spoke, I watched Elise's face contort with fury, then fear, then finally defeat. The verdict was swift and unanimous. Guilty on all counts. Elise was sentenced to an additional 20 years, her allies receiving similarly harsh sentences. It was over. Really, truly over. As they led Elise out of the courtroom for the last time, she twisted in the officer's grip to face me. "I'll get out someday," she snarled. "And when I do, I'll come for you. I'll make you pay for this." I just smiled sadly. "No, Elise, you won't. You're going to spend the rest of your life in a cage, with nothing but your anger and your regrets for company, and that's a fate far worse than anything you could ever do to me." With that, I turned my back on her, walking out of the courthouse and into the sunlight. Derek was waiting for me, a tentative smile on his face. "Is it really over?" he asked. I took his hand, squeezing it tight. "It's over. She can't hurt us anymore. We're free." And as we walked away, hand in hand, I felt a lightness in my heart that I hadn't known in years. The nightmare was finally over. And while the scars would always remain, I knew that Derek and I would heal, together. We had each other. We had the truth. And in the end, that was all that mattered. Elise had tried to destroy us, but she had only made us stronger. Our bond was unbreakable, forged in the fire of her hatred. And as we faced the future, unsure but unafraid, I knew one thing for certain. Whatever challenges lay ahead, we would face them head-on, side by side. Because that's what family does. And Derek and I? We were family, now and always.